I want his robot family dead.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch Please. This week's movie is
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet is a 2002 action-adventure science fiction film directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Brian Murray, Emma Thompson, David Hyde Pierce, Martin Short, Michael Wincott, Laurie Metcalf, and Roscoe Lee Brown. How about a plot synopsis?
All right, so you have some pirates, and they're in space with ships that are spaceships that look like ships. And you have a kid who, at least he doesn't want to become like a pirate, but he wants to find a pirate's treasure. He meets a cyborg with a really shitty leg, but a really awesome arm. They have father-son bonding moments. They go on an adventure. There's some pirate stuff going on. They get on a planet that's actually like a giant robot thing. Some stuff explodes and no one gets rich. Except for the mom, who didn't do shit.
Yeah, well, I guess he had a lot to make up for.
And then, like, I don't know, maybe some air surfing or whatever, because surfing on water is not cool anymore, because it's in space. Gotta have, like, solar gliders. No, but, like, seriously, I know this is supposed to be adapted from Treasure Island, but... And I know of Treasure Island. I know of it. But this seemed more like One Piece than it did fucking Treasure Island. Like seriously, like I watched this and go, all right, that's a cap. That's a cap. That's a cap. That's a cap. All we're missing now are superpowers and an older brother. Like seriously, that's all we're really fucking missing. And so I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? And so I was looking at it, and Treasure Planet is from 2002, and One Piece has effectively covered everything from 1997 and ongoing. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe they really like the show, the manga, all that business. But yeah, this screamed that damn show.
I guess it kind of
Except
does.
for space. Except for the space part.
Well, I mean, pirate-ness and things. I mean, it's hard, I guess, to get away from it. Because One Piece is not in space.
No.
I do
Thank God.
One Piece.
I mean, like 4 kids. I mean, like 4 kids already fucked it up enough.
Well, they still have plenty of time. I mean,
like, oh no, we got to fix this. We got to have it in space now. Space pirates, that's in. We got to catch up with Disney.
Yeah. I mean, like what? One of the Nightmare on Elm Streets is in space or something, isn't it? Or not Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, Leprechaun.
No, not well. That too, but there's also. Which one is it? Maybe it's Halloween. No, wait.
Oh,
which one is Jason?
Friday 13th.
Friday the 13th. Yeah, one of those is in space.
I think it's the 10th one.
It is, yeah. Which everybody calls X, but it's not an X. It is not Mac OS X. It is 10.
No,
it's not an X. No. Romans.
But that's just one of those things where it's like now, other than the fact that it's like a bloody planet, and of course, it's Treasure Planet instead of Treasure Island, so they have to have the whole planet be the treasure.
Treasure
or at least
Planet.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it. Or at least, it's like it was the fact that the planet had a core like floating in the center of it that lasers shot into, and then he just like Flint just threw the gold and jewels on top of it. But I thought that was kind of cool, but that's one of those things where it's like, seriously, you're supposed to be like a super awesome famous pirate. You have this technology to travel anywhere, but you have all your stuff in one place. See, now I got to stop myself from saying One Piece, because that's all I can think about now.
Yeah.
That's terrible pirating. It's terrible pirating, folks.
Well, I guess maybe he wants to keep an eye on it. So,
yeah,
puts it all in one place.
If he can have like if he can have a super surveillance robot and a portal that takes him anywhere in the galaxy, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be hard for him to have an eye on some of his treasure somewhere else.
Well, there's so many questions that comes from the planet and the portal, and it's like, because it's a fake planet. It's mechanical, right? So
It's fucking huge though, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, but Flint didn't build it, did he? So
I don't know. Like they don't talk about that stuff. Like that would have ended up being more interesting as a sequel or prequel or whatever they want to call it compared to a lot of other stuff that's made.
I mean, they blow it up, so we don't get to find out anything at all about it. But there's, yeah, because he's got like this portal thing, and it's a mechanical planet, and which nobody thinks of to start with. So it doesn't seem like mechanical planets are that common. Although I'm not sure about, what is it, Crescentia? Is that what it is? The spaceport that looks like a crescent moon?
I did like that. I
like that too.
You know?
That's well. See, the thing is that I do like this as an idea. I like I like things like that. Like I kind of like the idea of sort of alternate. Not necessarily alternate histories, but futures that led from alternate histories. Things like steampunk and things like this, where it's like if you just sort of took an era and went into the future with it, but kept most of it. I mean, because it's like this. This is like, 16th century sailing, 17th century sailing, but it's in space, and there's like they look like sailing ships, but they're solar sails, and they also have rockets and things. And everybody still goes about pirating and.
Well, like even if you were to take that, fuck physics, just straight up. I'm gonna go ahead and say it and get it out of the way now. This movie, that's one of the things that kind of got me. I know it's like a kid's film and it's Disney, but literally just fuck physics because obviously space isn't in a vacuum. No one worries about oxygen or hell, maybe they're all aliens. Like that kid isn't a human, whatever. That's fine. No one breathes. So they can all survive in the vacuum of space.
Well,
which
it's not the vacuum of space, though. It's the Ethereum.
Yeah, well, whatever. That's what they can call it. We call it space because, black holes and stars and shit exist in space. Otherwise, that's the thing is you have to have like something they can't survive in. Otherwise, losing Mr. Arrow wouldn't have made any sense at all.
Well,
like, there
I
has
guess
to be
maybe
like
he
a
got
form of
sucked into the
mortality.
Nova or something, but yeah, because it's not like he's gonna run out of air or something because he doesn't have any air to start with. Yeah. But then there's also it's just because Doppler is an idiot and just bumbles around, but he gets sold a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Which there seems to be no need of or use for.
Exactly.
So even
now I'm okay with it because it helps draw attention to Dilbert's character. It shows you a little bit more about him other than like the very beta male faggotness of him from like previous scenes. It's like it's not the fact
Dilbert stupid
yeah.
business. Which was in every commercial and trailer for this thing. And I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
The way that they name stuff in this, they're so like just right off the edge of on the nose because it's Crescentia and it's a crescent moon shape.
Yeah.
And he has Alponium chowder.
Yeah.
And Alpo is a dog food brand, and he evidently
looks
seems
like a dog.
He's some kind of dog.
Well, like that's the thing that got me.
They seem to be being too clever by at least half in all of the way that they make all the various other aliens and people, because there's like people that look like sort of normal stuff, like he's a dog and the captain of the ship is a cat, and then Mr. Arrow is like I don't know what, and he's got a big chin. But
God,
then you have
like a bloody fucking rock. Like I thought he was a rock, and like when we get towards the end of this podcast, I'll tell you some more stuff about Mr. Arrow. But what was the guy who looked like a crab? What was his name?
I don't even know, something. But you have things like the guy that like his body and his head are sort of exist independently, but then they also attach.
Well, I think that was one of the things was I think like the whole pirate crew was designed off of like bottom dwelling sea animals, because like the guy that did all the flatulence, like the flatulent language or whatever,
and stuff like that. Yeah,
you know, because like you'd have like the sea slug, the octopus, the crab guy, you know, some stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm a little more accepting just because there seems to be like some like theme there,
but then there's cats and dogs. I just don't know.
Well, exactly. You know, there is cats and dogs, and they're the good guys, and then like all of the bottom-dwelling sea animals are the bad guys.
So do we have like sea creature racism happening here? Like, what's going on?
Only in the show. Our show. There is no racism in the future in space. Oh, God, we know there's going to be. You have to have at least 12 fingers to get in here. Fucking 10-fingered humans. Now, one of the I like the transition between the kid and the teen of the boy. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember his name. It's like, what was his name?
Jim.
That's why I didn't remember his name. I was too caught up in the Star Trek scene.
Dang it, Jim, I'm an astronomer, not a doctor.
I'm sorry. That's why I had forgotten. But like from him turning into like the little kid and then into the teenager writing, like the way that like the look on his face, the way he had his head, you know, even though it's like little kid in bed compared to teen on solar surf or whatever, I like that transition. Like it felt very smooth. Yeah. So like whenever it was like, okay, we got this and it's like slow and nothing's moving and we got some music and he's excited and then like bam, action right there, and it didn't jar me. It was just like, okay, this is a good transition. This helps. Yeah,
like the music starts and everything. Which I do really like. It's a James Newton Howard score. And
he did really well.
It's the best part. It's the best thing about this movie. This happened a long time before, so I thought of this when do you remember right after the titles of the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek? And it's like Kirk is like 8 years old or something, and he's driving the Corvette.
Yeah.
Like that, when I saw that the first time, it made me think of this. Because it's like he's doing something he's not supposed to. He's getting into trouble. The robot police show up.
The robot police.
They are the robot police. Now, the robot police. Now, this is probably giving this movie more credit than they actually thought about. But they have robots not remember stuff.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Now, later when it's been really, really super long, so I guess you could think, okay, well, you know, hard drives degrade over time.
The hard drive was actually removed from his head, and I was okay with that because his main memory circuit was physically removed.
But the police are like, they're right there. There's nothing wrong with them, and like it's just so that we can have the joke of like, and so we get he's been arrested for this like enough times that he knows the subsection of the penal code. So it's like that's what it's for. But it comes at the expense of saying, but wait, the robots don't remember the law, like they're the robot police.
Yeah. Faulty technology, man.
I guess.
What if they weren't made? What if it's like their own little cyborg race or android race? Or
well, see, the thing is that I would just say no. They're just very clearly robots because cyborgs have to start out as people, and then you add like robotic prosthetics to them, which is what Silver is. But
I be a humble chef.
Yeah. Fastest cooking soup ever.
Yeah, like that was magic and shit.
It's just like he cuts all the stuff up, he dumps it in the pot and like stirs it around and then immediately pours it into bowls.
Like, dude, he already had it done. He just did that for show because he's like, oh, I just be a cook. Look at what I can do. It's a good thing I practiced this like 20 hours ago.
Yeah. But then we also have And this is just because Ben is the name of the actual character, the original Treasure Island character of the guy that's marooned on the island when they get there, so they have to name him Ben. But then they come up with because he's a robot, it's initials for something.
Yep.
And it's, what does he actually say it is? I didn't write down the whole thing.
Well, I didn't pay any attention because he was annoying as fuck.
Oh, he is. He's absolutely like somebody watched episode 1 and thought Jar Jar was a good idea.
Yeah.
That's what happened. But the B of his name, whatever the rest of it is bio. It's like bioelectronic navigator. That's what it is. What's the bio part? He seems like just a straight up robot. Yeah. I don't see any biological part at all.
I don't know if we want to know about that part.
Probably not. But is it like to bring up Star Wars again within like 20 seconds? Is it like General Grievous, where it's like he's all robot, but he has like one organ left or something? He's got like what? Like he's got his eyes are real, and then he has what I guess is his heart, and then
I think it was like part of his brain, his eyes, his throat, and his lungs.
But
so in other words, he was worse off than what's his name that became RoboCop.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. How much of him is like not? Does he have more than just his jaw left? Like how much of him is left even?
Well, if you go by the new movie, which was pretty good, yeah, there's like almost nothing left. Like it was his face, his throat, his lungs, and then like I think they show it and you're like, oh my god, he had more than Grievous did. Just straight up, he had more than Grievous did, but barely.
So also in the being clever department, there's this immediately. Doppler wants to be with the captain. Like he gets really flustered and you can tell that they're gonna have to end up being together by the end of it. But it's cats and dogs.
It's other than yes, it's cats and dogs. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Also, how do they not have cat dog kids at the end?
Because Cat Dog is owned by Nickelodeon.
I know, but it's just like I kept thinking it's like there's like 3 cat kids and a dog kid. It's like, but
dog,
cat dog, it's laying right there.
Well, outside of it being cats and dogs, the thing that just really hits is it's one of them tropes where it's like, okay, if you have man and woman and they start off at the beginning of the movie at each other's throats or not liking each other, they always hook up at the end. It's a thing that always happens, and because this is no exception.
Morph's name is Morph. Because he morphs.
I like Morph.
He's okay.
I like Morph because even though Morph serves the purpose of that guy, at least Morph isn't like a person. Like Morph doesn't have like a sense of identity like other, self-conscious, creatures would. Because Morph is just kind of very, I don't know, instinctively driven, other than, it's like very childlike. So it's like, when they're playing Whack-A-Morph, yeah, like they're playing Whack-A-Morph. You'll have scenes like that where it's just like a very friendly, silly creature, and they try to act like Morph has emotions and feelings beyond just its facial expressions.
But it's really scene to scene, and it's not all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it only happens whenever Morph repeats what that person says back to them. It doesn't say its own stuff; it only repeats.
Otherwise he just smiles and stuff.
Smiles, giggles, and then turns into something that's supposed to cause annoyment.
So, yeah, like he just turns into like things to annoy people. So, like if you went to whatever planet he comes from, does that just like all they do? Do they just annoy each other just all the time, and that's just their society, or like what? Like
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. It's like saying that they're in a society is a bit stretching it, because if you remember earlier, whenever they met Mr. Silver, and then there was Morph. Morph was a spoon. Morph was a spoon in the bowl that he poured the soup into. The eyeball soup. Yeah, the eyeball soup joke. Yeah, that I laughed at.
Part of the old family.
Yeah, it's like, it's an old family recipe. Huh. That's part of the old family. I did. I laughed at that, like, because that got me, because I didn't expect it. I did. It just is like, ha! That guy! Give him a medal, because that shit's hilarious. He says that he rescued Morph, but he didn't really explain what he rescued Morph from. So what I'm thinking is, while he was out pirating, they were in that area wherever Morph's race really comes from, and then Morph just took a liking to him and then hung out.
Mm-hmm. Took a shine to him, he says.
Took a shine, yeah. But that thing is, like, he obviously can turn into objects and can be used in at least a minor fashion, because he turns into the map orb, which I did like the whole little intro of the orb, you know, like the dying pirate guy in the chest, and he doesn't want to lose the chest, like the chest is super important. Mm-hmm. And then of course, because the map's in it and all that kind of jazz. But I like the fact it wasn't just like a normal map, like it was a tool. You know, it's not like, oh, well, if you do this, it opens up and bam, it's a map. Like, no, it's a tool. You have to have the tool to use the teleporter. I liked that because it gave more than one purpose to the actual device itself.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is like, if you just give one purpose to an item that's supposed to be important, sooner or later something's going to mess up. Something's going to mess up, and then the item is going to lose its importance. So, like, you spend all this time, like, going after it, and then, like, oh, well, now it's not as important because we got a way around it. Like, this pretty much meant that this orb was the most important thing, like, in the entire movie.
Yeah,
because the kid was replaceable. Everybody is replaceable, and the story could have taken place with completely different people, but the outcome can only be the same because of the orb.
Why, though, does the map exist in the way that it does? Because if he just like uses it, if he just uses the portal to travel around, then he doesn't really need to find where he needs to go to get back to his treasure.
Well, other than the fact that this is a movie and they have to very blatantly show us because it's also a kids movie, I think that the orb itself, if you use the orb is just a map. But if you use it with the device that's the teleporter, it's still a map. Like, it still opens up the map. It's just now it's like an interactive map. Like, you can actually click on stuff and it does things. But if it wasn't, actually being used, like if you just opened it up somewhere, then it's only going to be like, hey, well, like, here's an atlas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the point. And then like, because when they zoom in and they show us like, hey, what's this place? Treasure Planet. That kind of business. Like they don't hold that. It's not like they continuously do that. We don't see him in there trying to open it again and like, bam, there it is. Like, no.
Well, we actually never see them use it at all on the way to the planet. Like, they get on the ship and they put it in the box, and then it's still in the box when they get there, and then like they
I'm totally fine with that.
They run off with it. So they didn't use it to navigate at all.
Well, and they didn't need to, because whenever Dilbert, like whenever they opened it up in Dilbert's house, he's an astronomer. So he already knew. Like, he just had to follow the line, and he already knew where they had to go. So there wasn't a need. He just had to hire the crew, get the captain, tell the captain where they were going. Captain would obviously know how to get there because that's her job. And then off they go.
Here's a question, though. How did the person writing the hologram book know what it actually looked like if no one's ever found it?
That's a really good question.
Because I didn't think of it until just now, and we were talking about it. I was like, wait a minute, it looks like the same in the book. What
if Flint was actually the guy who did the book? Yeah.
Maybe.
He did it before he died. Yeah.
One thing I'm so happy about is that he has daddy issues because his dad is like left, which by itself is another trope.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that he didn't come back. And that he wasn't like part of Flint's crew or something, and that's why he left and all business. Like that would have made me angry.
Like that, that would have been some bullshit. Yeah, but that's even though it is a trope that the child's father has ran off, and so must the child to help the other parent that's still there. Even though that happened, we get a scene where we see Jim's dad come back for a little bit and then run off again permanently.
Yeah, or at least permanently to this point.
Yeah. He could be dead for all we know.
He might be.
But that's the thing, is like no one has told, Jim and the mom that he's dead. It's just he just ran off. And it's just that's the thing. It's like we see it. We see it. We're not just told, we see it. And that is very saddening. Yeah,
we get it in that whole montage business when he's becoming friendly with Silver.
Yeah. Now, I did like the whole father-son kind of bonding scene. Like, I did like that, and I felt it was well balanced. Because, when they do this stuff together, and you can see how ragged Silver is running him. But then whenever we get to, like the solar ship, like the little, what'd they call it? The longboat. The longboat. And then, like, the kid knows how to run the longboat. It's like, the kid knows a little bit, he's good. And then all the flattery talk about, getting some of the light off of him, like it helps play on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little uneven because he is mean to him, and we know that he has the plan of keeping him overworked so that he doesn't have time to be suspicious. But then there's also those sort of genuine moments like taking the longboat out together and stuff that are just sort of in the middle, and they're both like, yeah, that was pretty cool. And it's like you realize like he was just short of beating you to death in the last cut in the montage before this. And so it's sort of like trying to have it both ways without it being clear.
Well, that's the thing is I'm not exactly sure what would have happened either way, because even whenever Snips had cut the rope and poor Mr. Arrow had to go flying off, because arrows fly off.
I hadn't even thought of that too. There's that's why he's named that, isn't it? They're dead to me.
So Snips cuts the rope, Mr. Arrow goes flying off, and even Silver makes the comment about like that wasn't the plan, and it kind of it makes me wonder, because it's not about unevenness as much as it's about continuity. Silver is supposed to be a really badass pirate who is tough and not soft, and his crew respects him. But he has an issue with the fact that Snips got rid of Mr. Silver. Now, I don't know if this is because they blamed it on the boy or what. Because, like, a whole bunch of this, like, I understand the whole I'm Silver, I'm head pirate, and I have this plan for, getting this boat, and we're going to go off and get treasure and all that kind of hot jazz. But at the same time, whenever he has all this stuff that he deals with the boy, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to kill the boy. I'm just going to keep him really, really busy. You guys just stay away from him and quit being so suspicious because you guys suck. And of course,
that first scene where they almost kill him, where he's just mopping or swabbing the deck, and then they just sort of come over and start to kill him. And they're like, you should learn to mind your own business. And it's like, he was not in your business. Like, you just put him in your business by holding him against the mast like that. Like, there was no reason for you to go off and do that to start with. But
that's
which
why
is what Silver tells them later in the secret meaning of secrets. But
so that's why I'm okay with the whole kind of bonding thing. It's because we know that Silver seems to be displeased with killing with no proper cause or whatever. I mean, there's no reason to kill the boy, and he was obviously not pleased with killing Mr. Arrow, and that was the whole bit. So whenever they had that little montage scene, I could understand why there would be that genuineness there. Okay, yeah, he's going to run him ragged to keep him out of the plan, but he's also bonding with him. So there was no issue there.
But there's also no anything to keep him from noticing. Because
exactly.
They're going to the planet. They're all going to the planet, and they don't have to do anything suspicious until they get there. And then they just have to take over the ship from the only 3 people that aren't in on the plan. Yep. Even when Mr. Arrow is there, it's still 4, and there's still a bunch more of them. So there's nothing to keep him busy, to keep him from seeing. But...
Well, that was one of those. That was the thing, is like there was no need to talk about it. They already knew the plan. You don't need to keep talking about the plan if you know the plan. And so when they cut the rope for Mr. Arrow and he went flying off, it made me really sad because I liked Mr. Arrow and I loved his voice. That voice was like, oh yeah, keep talking, no homo.
I did have a lot of problem though with
that
Jim.
Damn robot.
Well, yeah. But with Jim being, believing that he messed up. Because he starts to stand up for himself to start with. And he's like, no, I checked. Which we saw him do. And he's sure. And then...
He just kind of wusses out.
They don't they don't believe him. And then in the next scene, he's talking to Silver. And he's like, I can't believe I messed up so bad. And it's like, why do you suddenly believe that?
Yeah.
Because we already know that Snips is suspicious because he already tried to kill you against the mast. So you shouldn't just trust what he says and go putting yourself down about it. It bothered me a lot that we went from him being sure that he didn't do it to being sure that he did, right away.
I understand that we kind of had to have that. It didn't make any sense, but we had to have that so we could have the follow-up scene, about having him talk that shit up and making him feel good about himself. But if it was anybody else, they probably could have got away with it. But if it wasn't for Mr. Snips, because Mr. Snips is the one who said it. Mr. Snips is the one who said it. And because of that, you can't really have it because he cuts shit. Because he's got claws and he cuts things. And he could have just made a comment about the rope snapped. Or any of the other crew could have said something, but no one else knew other than Mr. Snips. It's oh man, he was there and he was swinging and the rope snapped and I tried to get it, but I got claws for hands and shit happens.
Yeah, he doesn't even play it up. He just says it as if it's true and no one questions it. Everybody just gives Jim a dirty look and then we sort of move on from... really, we don't even need he tries to build him back up with the catching the light off of him scene because there's no reason for it, because there's no consequence to him having been blamed for losing Mr. Arrow anyway, because he doesn't get thrown off the ship too or chained down and nothing happens. They just sort of, everybody goes back to work after they look at him and he sort of feels bad, but there's no reason for either end of it.
Yeah, there was no punishment to follow it up. It's not hey, you fucked up, so you got to get punished. Other than losing Mr. Arrow, there was no consequence to it.
Yeah, but yeah, especially that the it's not really spaced and what. But I guess it must be because he fell into the nova or something. Because it did explode again, they rode the last wave of it. So. Why can't Silver open the map?
Because he doesn't know the twist combination.
Well, I guess, but it's not it doesn't even let him get it wrong. He just sort of goes to turn it and it just doesn't. But also that, Jim just sort of is like watching people who can solve Rubik's Cubes in 10 seconds. It's like that. He just is barely even looking at it and he just sort of fiddles with it for a second and gets it right immediately. And I guess it's supposed to be because we have that she tells Doppler that he built his first rocket skateboard engine when he was 5 or something. So we're supposed to expect that he's good with machines But still, it seems like, okay, so why is he able to open the map? Oh, because he's the main character. Okay.
Not good enough.
Because there's no like, oh, I wonder what it is, and we'll spend a little time like not knowing what it is. We get through that scene so quick because like through that whole from. I know we want to get off onto the adventure, but we just like the dude with the chest shows up.
It's going to take me forever to figure out this. Click, 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 click. Done. It's a map. Next scene.
And it, well, no, it's not even that. It's like, it's a map. And then immediately Doppler believes it. And it's like, oh, it's Treasure Planet. We're going like right now. Like, there's no like, well, like, how do we
Adventure Time? Come on, tell your friends. We're going to a very distant land. With Doppler the dog and Jim the human.
But it's just like we there's no hesitation at all of like, oh well, I guess this is real and we're just gonna go because it must be. We just sort of get there really, really fast because the thing that I keep thinking of that came out just before this. That's also Disney is Atlantis, and there's a lot of sort of similar things like we have to go off on adventure. There's like the guys that are the crew might be bad guys too, and there's like a map that like you have to use to get there because nobody's ever been able to find it otherwise. And if you get there, there's like not necessarily treasure, but like stuff that you want, But in the case of that, there's this whole setup of the Shepherd's Journal is like a thing that people have known about throughout history. And if we can find it, then that'll lead us to even without the Viking prologue, which was cut out, just there's this whole thing because you have Milo's speech at the beginning to nobody. Yep. And it's like, there's none of that here. There's no like, well, somebody has a map and then there's this dude with the chest. Because in the actual, and I've been trying so hard to avoid this, in the actual Treasure Island story, the guy with the chest or that has the map, he shows up at the inn and then there's like a period of time where he gets to know Jim and some time passes and he eventually by the time Silver shows up and all the trouble starts, there's a whole there's this whole like, well, we can trust him that the map is real. Like he has a history with this treasure and with blow through all that so fast. It's just like, well, it's a map. Well, leads to the treasure. Must be true. Let's go. So
I did like that little intro thing. I just wish he was like a kid again, trying to bring home pets, asking if he can keep it, and then the door opens. Hi, Mom. Holy shit. No, you can't keep him. He needs help. He's hurt. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they do that a couple of times because they do that with the police because they're talking about, oh, he gets in trouble, but it's been okay. And then the door busts open and the robot police are there. And then
we're the police and nothing's okay right now. Now if I could only remember why we were here. Because of the law.
Well, and they say it's a violation of his probation.
Probation for what?
Because he's done this over and over and over. Because he knows the subsection of the law. Like
shit. Why didn't they just shoot him down?
Well, why did they let him go again? It's like he's been arrested for this a number of times. He was on probation. We arrested him. Like, we can't let this continue on. But it's okay. We'll go ahead and this one last time we'll leave him here.
Yeah.
Let's motor.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. I don't want to motor nothing.
Jumping all over the place.
Yeah, getting oil and shit. Yeah. Okay, so Doppler, I actually enjoyed his character because he was funny without trying to be funny. You know, he's not doing silly things on purpose. He's just doing silly things because he's an idiot. A well-educated idiot, but an idiot nonetheless. I mainly like his reaction to things. And you have the first one where the officers tell him to step off and he just curls up in a shell. I like that. I thought that was funny. And then when they're actually And then when he's actually on the planet and like they're in the little thing, the tree hole, whatever. And she goes, "You have wonderful eyes." And then he flips out and goes, "She's lost her mind." Damn it, Jim. I'm not a doctor.
I'm an astronomer, not a doctor. I mean, I am a
Yes!
doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate. It's not the same thing. You can't help people with a doctorate. You just sit there and you're useless.
Exactly. It's that kind of shit. Like, I like that. And so even though there was that awfully ridiculous go Dilbert whatever, I was able to look past that.
So bad. So
like I could
bad.
look past that because of this kind of stuff, regardless of the Star Trek reference. But it's this stuff, like his reaction. At least he did kind of boss up. He you know, of course, he gets the girl in the end. That's why I can tolerate him
and stuff.
Yeah, like I can tolerate him. I can't tolerate that fucking robot.
No, it's terrible. I mean, you really
I hate that robot so much.
It's terrible.
And not that's like half of my notes. That fucking robot.
And he's only there like we suddenly introduce a character with 27 minutes left in the movie. That's going to be like critical. So he's there for less than a third of the movie, and it's still just like stop it, go away.
Bullshit. And not having gravity does not mean you fly off.
No, it doesn't. It just means if you push off, you'll keep going.
Yep. And I guess like some of the times they were pushed off, but like that was just like, oh, if we turn the gravity off, you're just gonna fucking fly away. Like that's what that was.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, in Gravity, that's one of the things that people complained about is that George Clooney should not continue to be pulled away like that. Because what is the pressure on it? Like, there's nothing to pull him. He's holding onto a thing. He should stop moving. It doesn't make sense. And it's the same. It's actually exactly the same. Because he's got a hold of the thing, and then he just keeps getting pulled away, and then he can't hold on anymore, and he goes loose. And
fuck physics. Physics don't make any fucking sense. Like, what about the gravity on that robot planet? Like, how does that even work? Because, like, the core was floating in the core, and lasers was shooting at it and shit. You know, like, doesn't gravity get more intense, like, the deeper you go? Like, did it get more intense or does it get weaker? Like, I can't remember. It's one of those things.
Yeah,
where,
it kind of does.
The core.
It sort of does because you get closer to the center of the mass, but then you also have, like, the... if you're in like an open hole inside the thing, like if you were sitting right next to the core and there's like space around it, then even though you're closer to the core and there's probably like magnetism or something happening, that by itself, you're actually underneath what is a large part of the mass when you're standing on the surface. And so I think there's like a part where it's a lot less gravity in the space between. But I'm not sure how much of that's real and how much of that is from the movie The Core. So,
I'm not good enough with physics, so I can't fuck the physics. I just kind of have to go with it. Yeah. Okay. Now the core is obviously in the center and it's floating in the center, and so I don't understand how things keep going on. But they have like these cannon things that shoot the purple lasers into it, and they're all perfectly timed because the holes in the core like rotate and stuff happens, and magic and technology fuse into one, and supreme beings and whatever. That, like, once again, this would still make an awesome sequel, prequel thing of this movie to have Captain Flint in it and this planet.
Yeah. See, I think that's part of the worst thing about this is because I like there's stuff here that's
totally sweet.
Yeah, but that's like kind of wasted because we don't spend any time on it, and then the rest of what's happening is like, okay, well, that's... Well, what about this other stuff? Like, that was cool, but I don't care about this thing over here. But what about that? I mean, and I just like the whole world of it. I like the sailing ships in space, even though it makes no sense. I just like it as an idea. But, and actually they made several video games based in this universe after the movie came out, and they do a lot more with the sort of, it's the Navy in space and like space combat and things and like how you navigate and how they and so they do have, there is more to it. It's just unfortunately not in the movie, so it doesn't count.
In the Navy.
Yes.
Okay. By Jim wasn't good enough. I wanted him to be gone forever.
Jim, what?
No, the robot, when he goes, bye, Jim, and then he doesn't leave, and he just comes back. God, that robot, I hate that robot so much.
Yeah, he really...
I like the actor that voiced the robot, I just don't like the robot. Let's see here. Yeah, the doctor gets manly, and of course we had to have a driving scene where the woman is a backseat driver, and he has to tell her to shut up, and then she gives him the eyes. Yeah. Okay, so... it's like, I've got to escape because, can't let poor Morph be behind bars and shit, because that's not cool. Like, Morph? I don't know why I won't keep wanting to say Marf. Morph can just kind of go between the bars. I mean, he's fucking ooze.
Yeah, well, and I don't think he's especially wanted by the law anyway. I don't think he really did anything to go to prison for. But Silver did. Yeah.
Now, like, I don't know exactly how much Silver managed to stick in his pockets, but when he just reached in there and then threw some coins and some jewels and is like, this is for your mom so she can rebuild the inn and all that kind of bit. I like that. It's a nice little touch. Of course, he's going to escape. You knew it the whole time. Mainly just because he decided to save the kid compared to saving the ship, that kind of thing. And all that's dandy. Jim gets back home. They make the new inn. It's big. It's fancy. It's nice looking. He's like, what is he, in the academy now?
Yeah, I guess he's going in the Navy.
And then then there's the pan and it's outside and the clouds are in the shape of Silver's face. And then it lines up just right with the star and it's twinkle robot eye.
Yeah. How is that? Explain that.
Space, science, magic, supreme being stuff.
But it's not magic. That's the thing, is there's no it's not like the end of Aladdin where the genie goes up and swoops around the cloud. There's no way for it to happen.
It doesn't. No, it's crazy. Yes, it doesn't make any sense. It's fine. It's a touchy feely ending. They had to have something stupid like that. I'd rather just have him show up on the longboat and then it actually be him, and then he give us a quippy one-liner and then just ride off into the ether set.
Ethereum
set, whatever.
Like a Kandarian.
No.
On the clearest of nights, when the winds of the Ethereum were calm and peaceful.
Why can't he just be... Yeah, he should just be sitting over there in the longboat in the sky, sort of looking over at them, and yeah, that would be better, because that's a real thing that could happen.
But that's the thing, is that also shows that, Mr. Silver is thinking about Jim. It's not it's not something fleeting where it's out of sight, out of mind. No, he's still actually thinking about Jim because he knows Jim is bound for greatness. It's one of those things.
Yeah. Well,
now, with this being the end and it had awesome music, I was sad because I was hoping, this was the thing within the whole movie, because it's not the first time I've seen it, but the whole thing I was hoping at the end, Mr. Arrow would have shown up with Mr. Snips in chains or something, where it's just Mr. Arrow managed to survive that. Yeah. That kind of business. Because I always thought he was a rock monster kind of alien. And it's just well, shouldn't a rock be able to survive out in space? But oh yeah, it's not space. And oh yeah, gravity and fuck physics and all kinds of business. Because I really like Mr. Arrow. Mr. Arrow was there just to yell some orders and then be intimidating and then to die. That was it. And so it's but he had such an amazing voice for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still reminds me of One Piece.
So how do we feel about stars?
I'm going to give this thing 3 stars because obviously I've watched it more than once. I do enjoy a lot of the movie, and I really hate that damn robot so much. If it wasn't for that robot, if that robot wasn't so bloody annoying, I might give this 4 stars. I might have given it 4 stars, but I hate that robot so much. Like, I want him dead. I want him dead. I want his family dead. Like, I don't want
his robot family.
I want his robot family dead.
Yeah, he's a problem. He kind of brings the whole thing down.
Yeah. Because like I said, like even with Doppler, I was okay with Doppler. I thought he was fine. It was just
he's mostly fine. He just has a moment or two where it's like, oh man. But then Ben is just like, every time you just see him, he doesn't even speak yet. You're just like, oh no, here he is in a scene. This
loud and obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, hey, can we get Martin Short to like yell for like 30 consecutive minutes? Let's do that. Because that's what they did. It's just like the whole thing is just Martin Short yelling, which could be okay, I guess, but in this case is not. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I do really like. I've said more than once now that I like sort of the idea of it, but I think that's just sort of the. There's no. It feels kind of hollow. Like there's no meat to it really. We just sort of get from here to there in most cases much too quickly, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be longer. I mean, it's only whatever it is, 90 minutes or something. It doesn't have to be long, 95 minutes. It doesn't have to be longer, but I think maybe there's just, I don't know, it's just, it feels like I want more out of it than is there. Which is maybe an unfair criticism. It just feels like there's less there than there should be for the part of it that's there that is, which makes no sense at all. But so I don't know. I think I still kind of have to give it 3 stars too, because I think 2 is too low.
It's like it's too enjoyable to start with to give it less, because you're just like, oh, this is like pretty entertaining and it's good to watch and it's fun, yay. And then the robot shows up and the robot pulls it down and you're like, what the fuck? This is terrible. Like, quit doing this. It's no. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
So it does have problems, but not so severe. Like, it doesn't just have just really terrible, crippling problems that a doctorate won't help you with. Like, it's just not what it could be. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair.
Still reminds me of One Piece. I'm just saying, like, I know there's going to be people who are like, I saw One Piece, I remember reading the manga. It's nothing like that. I'm like, watch this movie again and pay attention.
We'll see you next time.
Later. Like, that steak is nice and medium rare. But Dad, what if they want well done? Well, then we will tell them politely yet firmly to leave. That's the thing, is like, people are like, I want my steak well done. And I just look at them like, why don't you just get a burger then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of pirates, show me the booty. I need the booty. I think that's a song.
Probably.
If it's not a song, then like, wow, okay.
Like, wow.
Well, we were like, wow, but then we changed our minds because bullshit. Covered in AIDS and bees. Angry bees.
Bees.
How long do you think it would take to train an army of bees?
Longer.
Well, where are we going to train them at? You can always drop them off in Africa. That seems to fuck shit up pretty well. I think we done that once. Brought them back. That's why we get to have flamethrowers.
With bazookas.
are not effective against angry bees.
I bet they would. I bet it would be. If there's, if there's enough of them, you just like shoot it at the ground right there, and that makes a fireball.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. It's like indirect shooting would be ineffective. Like you have to hit them with like the shock of the blast.
Yeah, like don't try to like sight in on a single bee. Like that's
that would be like, even though it'd make for a very cheesy like 3D moment in a movie, I would fucking see that.
That would be ridiculous. I mean, there's no way. Like I'm pretty sure that a bee doesn't even have enough. Like it wouldn't even.
Oh my
set
god, that would be so awesome because it'd be like all in slow motion, and they would zoom in on the bee, and the bee could be wearing an eye patch. Oh, that would be fucking sweet. Like that bee has an eye patch. How the fuck does it have an eye patch? It only covers like one of the hexagons.
No, it covers the whole. Like what? They've got 2 eyes.
Yeah, but like the eyes are like. Actually, I don't know about bees. Like the having like all the multiple lenses.
I think they have compound eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, like like I don't know if they're like made of hexagon shaped lenses or what, but just having like one that covers one lens.
I wonder if that's why they make the hexagon shaped holes in the beehive. Because maybe they don't see them as hexagon shaped.
Maybe.
I have no idea. Like that's probably completely wrong. It's not like they're looking through a hexagon shaped eye, and so that makes regular things throws off the shape of things.
Like those flowers are fucking trippy, man.
See, that's right where I went, because I was like, man, this is like so like if you were just stoned, you'd be like, man, like hexagon eyes, man. It would just be.
It's like, dude, these flowers are shapes.
Yeah, flower shapes.
Like, dude, you can't come over anymore. Just no.
Plutonium!
Quit smoking all my weed, bro.
It's Jesus, hide the weed.
Yeah, come on, guys, let me in. I know you're home. Dude, stop pounding on the door. The cops are outside. I don't know why everyone has a fascination with this picture.
Right.
It's like an old like English or Frenchy European picture, and it's like the dude, he's got his hand on his like face, and just like to the side of the face, like on his ear or cheek or something, and then there's like a guy behind him stabbing him in the head, and there's like blood gushing out, and they both look like it's yeah, whatever. Let me get stabbed as usual. What can you do? I see that picture all the fucking time. I'm just like, what? Stop it. Stop it.
All right, let's do it. You just gonna keep playing with your mouth there?
Okay, I'm good.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is